Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross from PTCGRadio, and I'm back with a second video from the Wakefield Winnerbox tournament from a couple of weeks back. Now, just to confirm, this is pre-rotation, but it's good games, good players, it's still good stuff to watch. Now, you'll see on the left here, we have Luke Kirkham, the proprietor of the fantastic blog, victory-road.co. Go and look that up. He indeed made the US Nationals winning deck, the Big Basics. That Brandon Salazar has admitted that he did take that list card for card off of Luke's blog, victory-road.co, so go check that out. And on the right, with the Wakefield playmat, we have Terry Goodacre, the chap who pretty much with Joe runs the Wakefield TCG scene, but he does a lot more than that. He's going to be responsible for streaming at various events, not just at Wakefield. He really has been the guy that's been pushing streaming around the UK for at least the past year, streaming at a variety of events, Wakefield and otherwise. And he's really done a lot for the game in this country. He runs Winnerbox tournaments up in Wakefield, and it's like this one. And these Winnerbox tournaments are basically tournaments where it's exactly what it says on the tin. You go along, you enter, the winner gets a box. These are not always premier events, although sometimes he's able to put them into a league challenge, you know, so that they count as both. They're just events which he runs, like I say, with Joe, and it basically just runs them as a kind of extra tournament people can go to. So two good players here who are really advancing the scene in the UK. Now it looks like Luke is going first. He started with what looks like a Keldeo, and we see a treble Deoxys start on the right hand side from Terry. And Luke immediately playing a Professor's Letter, I believe. And what we're basically seeing here, I'm aware of this game, I'm aware of the result of this game. What I'm not aware of, however, is exactly how the game actually goes from kind of minute to minute. I haven't watched this game back yet, but I have seen it before. So Luke gets an energy attached to that Keldeo, and it looks like he's basically kind of out of options there. We can't see his hand perfectly, but he is, I'll tell you for nothing, he is playing a speed Charizard deck. A deck which is very much revolved around getting Charizard out as fast as is humanly possible. And I believe Terry's played an end there, and I think Luke was just showing him his hand there, basically just showing him, look man, you know, there was nothing here, I had nothing to work with. Of course, we knew there was nothing to work with. He played a Professor's Letter, attached a single fire energy to his active Keldeo, and then passed. That is not, shall we say, what you want to be doing in the early turns, especially when you're playing a speed deck like Speed Charizard, as Luke is. It's really not what you want to be doing in the early stages of these games. Terry is playing a TDK deck, a very traditional kind of deck, and he's running it with lots of Keldeo, and that's pretty much it. 4 Keldeo, and you see there he gets a Keldeo down, he gets a Colress Machine. Now I will warn you now, my computer is skipping a few frames every now and then, so if I seem a teensy bit behind, that is the reason for it. But we've got enough here to be going on. Now Terry ideally is looking for a water energy, or more likely a rainbow or a prism energy, or maybe even a blend with the water, lightning, steel and fighting. And he's going to be wanting a switch to get that active. Now he gets a bicycle and he gets a muscle band on that Kyurem. If he's got and he doesn't have the energy or the switch, so he's got to pass with the Deoxys active. And this is going to give Luke a few turns to get something done. In theory, if he can get, you know, a Charizard up, and Charizard can get going pretty quickly. You know, all he needs is a DCE and to Blacksmith 2 fighting energy, and he's got Charizard hitting with a muscle band for 170 in one turn. But it looks like he's got maybe a Floatstone or a second energy on that Keldeo, I can't quite tell, and he's had to pass again. Terry's able to play an Ultra Ball and get a Thunderous onto the bench there, and it looks like he's even ditched a Juniper to get that. So even after Terry played the N on his first turn, and there's an argument that Terry shouldn't have played the N because Luke clearly had nothing on his first turn, there's not one thing that I tend to go for very much, and you see he's got the Verbank and Juniper there, because a lot of the time people are going to draw out of it, and Luke is playing an awful lot of draw cards in his Speed Charizard deck, and Terry's going to know that. and he gets the laser there with the Verbank. And essentially, Terry's decision to play the end there was basically thinking Luke plays a huge amount of consistency cards, because Terry would have known what Luke was playing. I believe this is round 4 of the tournament when both parties are 3-0. And there's that expectation there that he's going to draw out of it. And if Terry didn't have anything turn 1, he'd be better off just playing the N and going for it. And Terry's got to be the favourite here, unless Luke really draws well. Now, Terry didn't get the turn 1 attack, but he got the laser, and Luke also gets a laser, and it seems that he's managed to hit ahead, but again, it doesn't look like he's got anything but that. Now, Terry's got 1 prism on that Kyurem, and there's another laser which comes up, I believe, tails. And all Terry really needs here, and he's got another Juniper, all he needs really is an energy and a switch, and I believe, oh no, he'll easily get the KO with an energy and a switch, because that Keldeo is going to have 60 damage at the end of this turn, purely from poison. So if he's got the energy, and he's got the energy there, we see a blend going onto the Kyurem. If he's got a switch here, he's going to be able to Blizzard Burn for a whole bunch of energy, and game 1 will be over, and we'll be going to turn 2. He hasn't played it yet, though, so that is seeming to suggest he doesn't have it. So he's just going to flip for sleep. Both Pokemon are going to take 30 damage from the poison with Verbank City Gym. And we are off again. So Luke here really needs to draw into something, or it really is going to be game. And it doesn't look like he's got anything. We can see an Electrode, we can see a Muscle Band. And, I mean, at this stage, even a Colress Machine Energy, or I don't believe he'd play DCE in TDK, and I don't think he is. But if Terry's got a DCE here, that would be enough. And you see he's got an energy there. If he can hit a Colress Machine, he will have enough for the KO here. We don't see a Colress Machine, but we do see a Colress, and as Terry's already got 1 energy attached to the Kyurem, and 1 Plasma Energy in the discard, and it seemed like he had 1 in his hand, maybe he had to play the Colress just to get the energy back into his deck, in order to maybe hit a Colress Machine. So Terry here, a switch, an escape rope, a float stone because a Deoxys isn't asleep, or a Colress Machine. Any of those cards from this Colress to 4 will be enough to give him the win in game 1, and you see he hits the switch there. So Kyurem can go up, Blizzard Burn for 170, which interestingly would kill the Keldeo if it didn't have any energy. And you see there, Luke was just going to be drawing dead for some time. Now, bearing in mind, at this stage of the game, both these players are 3-0. This is round 4, and the beautiful thing at this tournament, and I really need to thank Terry, and by the way, the Joe I've been referring to for this video, I should say, is Joe Gledhill, Terry's partner, and they've really been pushing the whole Wakefield and really UK TCG scene together. And Terry and Joe were very lovely at this tournament in that they actually set me up a table in a separate room away from the main tournament, giving me loads of space to set up my camera on this table here, and they actually let me select the game that I wanted to record each round. Last round I showed you Lou Lychee's Dugtrio Dragons deck because that was a really interesting deck I wanted to show you, and if you haven't gone and looked at that video yet, I heartily suggest you do. It should be the, well, 2 videos back, because the previous video to this would be episode 111 of my podcast. But a huge thank you to Joe and to Terry here and to the whole Wakefield TCG community for, you know, letting me record here, and above letting me record, really setting me up a separate space so I could record in comfort with no problems. And obviously to Luke and Terry and Lou and Paul in the previous game for agreeing to be recorded and popped up on the YouTube channel here. So we didn't really see much of a first game there. Luke really drew nothing, and Terry, I mean, it took Terry an awful long time to hit a switch or something like that. Had he hit that earlier, it would have been an even shorter game than it already was. But it was very much one-sided. Now, I believe Luke has posted his deck list for his Speed Charizard deck on his blog, victory-road.co, so go and check that out. But there's a lot of draw there, including a fair bit of trainer draw, roller skates, bicycle and the like. So it is a fairly consistent deck, and as I've told you, this is round 4. Both these players are 3-0. So Luke's already won his first 2 best-of-3 games. So quite frankly, you know, he has got a consistent deck, but as even the best players know, doesn't matter how consistent your deck is, sometimes it's going to die. Now, if we look at this matchup, essentially what it comes down to is Luke's got the speed. The reason he plays that Caldeo is because Charizard's second attack, which does 150 for 2 fire and a double colourless, cannot be used a second turn in a row. It's got an effect which basically says you can't do this next turn. So Luke can use Caldeo to rush in, float stone for free retreat, and hit for, well, with a muscle band and a laser, even without Verbank, you're talking 180. That'll one-hit KO anything. Terry, on the other hand, has got the long game here, and we see that Terry's got a much more favourable Kyurem start, and Terry's got a Voltorb and a Charizard. He hits tails on his first roller skates, and he hits heads on his second roller skates. And we see a DCE, I believe we see a Muscle Band and a Laser, so 3 cards that he really wants, although he's obviously going to want a supporter as well. He hits, I believe that's a heads on the Laser. Yes, so we do see that Kyurem going over, and marked with a poison counter. And this is a much better start here. Now he's got an Ultra Ball, so what he's really going to want to do with that is try and discard 2 fire energy, assuming he's got them in his hand, so that he's able to blacksmith on later. And we see he had a Muscle Band, that goes on. And what Luke's really looking for here is the early attacks. If he can get Charizard attacking early, he's going to win this game. It's going to happen. However, if he doesn't get Charizard attacking early, and I believe that's a Verbank City Gym, although the glare makes it entirely impossible to actually see, and he's going to go straight for... oh, maybe not. But he's got an Electrode there. And Terry just hits a tails on the laser. So if he... and that's really big, because... oh, and we see a Tool Scrapper straight away to get rid of that Muscle Band. Because as I was saying about this game, if it goes to long game, let's face it, Kyurem is going to eat those Charizards alive. What he really needs to do here is just keep those Kyurems alive. If he gets Kyurems out with just Muscle Band and... his Deoxys. Now, if he can actually get a Muscle Band and 4 Deoxys, and that's a fairly tall order, that means that Kyurem will be hitting for a base of 90, which will one-hit that Charizard. Then, of course, he's got Verbank and Laser to make up some of the slack if he's not always able to find his all of his Deoxys. And let's not also forget that his second attack, Blizzard Burn, will easily KO the Charizard. So Luke here is going for the very fast attack. He's really going for Charizard there. The other Pokemon we've seen from Luke are his Electrode for draw power, and his Kyurem basically to get rid of status effects, but also to reset Charizard so he can use that second attack again. Luke is focused around attacking fast with Charizard, and that's what this matchup is really going to come down to. Does Luke have the speed to get these fast KOs, or is Terry just going to go for it? Because let's not also forget, although it's not an ideal situation, Deoxys is going to be a pretty good attacker here. He's going to be able to hit for, I believe, 150 with Charizard having 4 energy on him. And with a Laser Muscle Band, that's actually going to get the one-hit KO from a Deoxys. So Terry, you see, he did have a switch, but he had to get rid of it with, I believe, a Juniper, and then he plays a Laser, and he's got a Colress Machine. And this is a potentially slightly dodgy play here, because if that Charizard gets a bunch of stuff going, he's going to be able to maybe even get the KO with his first attack with a Muscle Band and a Verbank. The first attack, I believe, does 60 here. Now Terry hits the heads, and Luke stays asleep, although remember he does play Caldeo. But having said that, I believe Colress Machine was the correct play here, and he plays a bike there, Luke does, as you can see. I believe that the Colress Machine was the right plan here, because it wasn't like he had anything on his bench to put it on. And, you know, Luke could have basically end Terry into rubbish, and then he doesn't have that extra energy attachment. This basically means that if Terry's got an energy the following turn, and you see I don't believe he played an energy that turn, I think he put the energy down on his first turn, unless that was Terry's. Regardless, Terry can put... I'm getting confused with the turns here, but essentially what's going to happen here is that Terry is going to be able to get that Blizzard Burn off next turn, with as long as he's got some kind of coloured energy. And like I say, although it wasn't ideal using a Colress Machine onto a poisoned, asleep Kyurem, which isn't able to attack that turn, he didn't have a better target, and he set himself up nicely for this turn. Now you'll see there that Luke has got his Electrode out, and he played a Bicycle as well. So Luke's really getting his draw power going nicely here. And your traditional TDK list isn't going to be playing any kind of Garbodor style thing, so all of Luke's kind of abilities he's taken advantage here are going to remain. So Luke's able to play a Professor's Letter, getting a couple of fire, and he really wants to try and put them in the discard and try and be using a Blacksmith. Now I don't believe Luke's played a supporter here, although I could have missed it. And what would be lovely here is discarding both of them, blacksmithing them on, and then retreating the Keldeo, which seems to have a floatstone on, although the glare makes it awkward, and that would actually get him the win this turn. Now, Charizard's only hitting for a maximum of 80 here, so Luke is just going to pass the turn to Terry, because there's no point doing the attack. He knows how easily that Kyurem can knock him out. So there's no point leaving the Charizard active until he's going to get the KO. Now Terry's got the energy there. Oh, and he gets a Silver Bangle onto the Kyurem, which is amazing. At this stage, a lot of people had stopped playing Silver Bangle in their TDK list, but TDK is a monstrous card, and in the list that Terry's playing, and I had a quick chat to him about this deck at the tournament, and it's very similar to the deck I played here, although I played a stupid promo Landorus rather than the 4th Kyurem, which, let me say it on the record now, ladies and gentlemen, was a mistake. I didn't use it all tournament, it was rubbish. But when you're largely attacking with this Kyurem, Silver Bangle makes sense. Deoxys is very nice as an attacker, and Muscle Band helps, same thing with Thunderous, but you really want to be going with Kyurem. It's the prize trade for TDK, which makes it such a good deck. The fact that you're getting the majority of your KOs, and we see a catch there, he hits a Tails, clearly going for the Charizard. If you're getting all of your prizes with single prize attackers, largely on EXs as the format is and was back then you're going to be able to get a win quite nicely. It's going to go in your favour. Now Kyurem there with the Blizzard Burn, he's got the Muscle Band, 2 Deoxys on the bench, means he's Blizzard Burning for 160, and the Laser did enough to get the KO. And I can't imagine Luke is going to be able to get the win here. Already, this game looks like it's going Terry's way. Terry has the better setup, and he's got the type advantage. Kyurem really is a phenomenal attacker against these Charizard decks. Now it does look like Luke just got a Blacksmith there, so he's able to get all the energy onto that Charizard, but as we've already said, even Deoxys at this stage is going to be a superb attacker. So if Luke's able to get the KO here, and I believe he's going to have to use the second attack to do so, he's now locked out of using that second attack next turn, and his Caldeo's dead. Now maybe he plays a second Caldeo, but regardless, it's going to be quite awkward to actually get that Caldeo out and get it with a get it there with a Floatstone, being able to attack and do all of that good stuff. So Luke is really, really on the back foot here, and it's going to take an awful lot for him to actually go about getting the, getting the win here. Terry's now, he's already up by 1 prize, because, as I've said, with TDK, Terry's using Kyurems. That means a Kyurem's gone down, whereas Luke is relying on those EXs, and it's a Caldeo that got KO'd, meaning that, Luke's gone down 2 prizes, whereas Terry's only gone down 1. Now, it does look like an end's coming out here, and that hurts Terry a tiny bit, because he's ending himself to 4, but again, he needs cards here. If he could hit a Colress Machine, and he hits a Pokemon Catcher, can he hit the heads? He doesn't, and that's the real... Now, Terry's clearly favouring Pokemon Catcher over something like Lysandra, and you see he's hit 2 tails, but imagine if they'd been heads. It would have completely changed the game. But without a Colress Machine, only having 1 energy on that Kyurem, Terry is forced to pass. Luke does get the Caldeo down. Does he have the Floatstone, or... at a push, he could do it with a DCE, because Caldeo does have a 2 retreat cost, but you really don't want to be using that. That would be most unfortunate if he was forced to do that. So the question here is really going to become, can Luke reset that Charizard? Charizard's first attack isn't really going to be doing a huge amount. I believe it's got a base of 60 for free colourless energy. With a muscle band, that'll put it up to 80. With a laser, bearing in mind the Verbac's out, that puts him up to 110. Now, true, that would mean that Keldeo died coming into Luke's turn, but it would also give Kyurem a chance to get the KO. That Charizard's already got some damage on. If Terry hit a laser and a third Deoxys, then he'd actually be able to get the KO with a Frost Spear. Oh no, that's the one with Silver Bangle on. So Frost Spear is going to be doing a base of 60, which will be 80. So actually, and that comes down to get rid of it, which is somewhat of a shame. But if Terry can get a Muscle Band and a Deoxys, or even just a Silver Bangle and a laser, he's threatening the KO with Frost Spear. Taking all that aside, if Terry's got a coloured energy and a Colress machine, he'll be able to Blizzard Burn for the KO. He'll be down to 2 prizes left. He's still got another Kyurem down. This isn't a lost cause for Luke. You can see he's already got a Charizard on the bench, and Lucas had to bench a Jirachi there. And that is, I mean, to be honest with you, it's not really a massive problem, because if Terry's able to do 90 to a Jirachi, then he's probably going to be doing 90 to a Charizard and get the KO due to weakness. Now I know he only has to do 60 plus, poison to the Jirachi, but still, it's almost as easy to kill the Charizard. Not quite, but almost. But maybe that's going to be an easy prize for Terry later on. So he gets the rush in with Keldeo. He's got the Keldeo active. Does he have a DCE or maybe a Float Stone? And it doesn't look like he does. So he's had to pass with the Keldeo active. Now it's going to take a fair bit, but there is a potential here for Terry to get a KO with Blizzard Burn. Now he would need 2 more energy. And you see there he's got 1. He'd also need a Muscle Band, and he would need a third Deoxys, which he's got, but it doesn't look like he's got that. Having said that, he's Frost Spearing for 60, and he's able to put 30 onto the bench Charizard. And what Terry's basically doing there is making that bench Charizard, and he top decks the DCE, which he really needed the previous turn for Keldeo. So he pops that on Charizard. Oh, and he's got the Blacksmith as well. So Luke here is hinting, just hinting, at a little bit of a comeback here by setting up multiple Charizards. Now he's only got 1 energy. There is the argument there that he should have left it until he had 2 energy in the discard. But he's able to get 1 more card off the bicycle. And let's face it, by the time he needs to attack with that Charizard, he's going to be able to manually attach another fire energy. So it's not the end of the world there. Now he's able to draw more cards using, I believe that was the Electrode. But what Terry did with that Frost Spear damage, the spare 30 on that Charizard, was pretty huge. Oh, and Luke has to again pass with the Keldeo active. And that, to be honest, I know we're fairly early on here and Terry's got 4 prizes left. But that really seems to have sealed it. If Terry's got an energy, and he's going to be able to Lysandra, so he does play that as well as the catcher. He can Lysandra up the Charizard here. He's going to be able to get the KO on that Charizard, I believe, with Frost Spear. Frost Spear is going to be doing 50, 60, 70, 80, so yeah, that's easily going to get the KO. Although, interestingly enough, it wouldn't have got the KO had he not put the residual damage on. So that's what I was saying a minute ago. It was the residual damage from that last Frost Spear which allowed him to get the KO there. Otherwise, he would have needed a laser, because the Charizard would have gone to 170, and if I remember correctly, it's got 180 HP. At this stage, he's got a Kyurem with 1 energy on the bench. Now, it is a Plasma energy, but remember how this TDK deck works. He's got, and we see a Juniper there from Luke. Terry's got such a big prize lead there. His 2 prizes are, he's got 2 prizes left to Luke's 5. There's such a big prize lead on Terry's side here. He's going to be able to spend a turn, raid a Knuckling with Thunderous, building up that Keldeo on the bench and getting the KO that way. Luke's probably going to be able to get the KO here, and to be honest, he's got to get the KO on that Kyurem. He can't play the catching up prize cards race, because if he tries to play catch up on the prize cards by killing something on the bench using a Lysandra, Pokemon catcher, etc., although he's Juniper so he couldn't Lysandra, he'd have to play a catcher. then that Kyurem just needs 1 energy to get the guaranteed KO, or indeed a Deoxys would get the KO here. So it's kind of irrelevant at this stage. He's got to kill that Kyurem. He goes down to 4 prizes, and that just gives Terry time. Now, Luke would really have to KO the active Kyurem. He'd then have to, Lysandra, etc., kill the benched Kyurem. And even then, like I said, Terry could be whipping out KOs here using Deoxys on the Charizard. So at this stage, unfortunately, it does look a little bit futile. Luke's going to carry it on because he's already 1 game down. There's no point scooping here. They're 25 minutes into a best of 3. But really, I mean, yeah, he's got the energy there. If he can hit a silver bangle... Oh, and there's a laser there, which brings him down to 150. So all he needs here is a muscle band. Oh, and there's a Colress machine, which isn't going to do a huge amount of good here because it's not actually going to help. And he's got no plasma energy left. You can see Terry's played this well in that he's got his deck down quite low. What he doesn't want Luke to do is end him and pull off a rather large comeback. Remember, all it takes is a DCE Blacksmith to get that Charizard using its second attack from nothing. So, Terry plays a Colress to 9, and he's got 3 Deoxys out, so he's currently he's hitting for 120, 150 with the Verbank, so he needs a Muscle Band or a Silver Bangle. Now, he also would have needed a Deoxys here. A Deoxys wouldn't have gotten the KO, so that's irrelevant. So it was the right thing to put the Thunderous down and Colress for more cards here. Any kind of Muscle Band, and there we go. There's a Silver Bangle. Frostbeer is going to do 180, and he actually didn't even need to play the laser in the end. That's going to get him his last 2 prizes and get him the KO. So it's entirely irrelevant here. He's Frostbearing for 30, plus the 3 Deoxys, plus the Silver Bangle. I'm assuming that's a Deoxys on the end. It might not be because of the glare. But regardless, there's even if it's not, he's still hitting for, 160, plus the poison damage will put him up to 190. So we see there a win, and to be honest here, Luke would have had to get a really fast start to pull off the win in these games. The nature of this matchup really is that Luke needs to get going fast. Kyurems against Water Weak EXs, that's what's going to be the difference here. It was always going to be difficult for Luke to pull off any kind of win in this particular game. Now, I spoke to Luke after the game, and he thinks he didn't play as well as he could, and he wanted me to point that out. But honestly, I don't think there was really much he could have done. With Terry's deck and the type advantage he had, this was always really going to be the result, unless Luke got an absolutely lightning fast start. Luke was 3-0 at this stage. So there really wasn't, it's a good deck, it runs well, it's just a really bad matchup with those Kyurems. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you again to Wakefield, to Joe and to Terry for allowing me to record this and pop it up on my YouTube channel. Make sure you like this video, make sure you comment if you got anything to say, make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. I've got one more game from this tournament, from the 5th and final round of Swiss, to pop up for you guys, so look out for that in about 2 days' time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCGRadio.